Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are talking through a book review of the third book in the Star Wars Expanded Universe, the Star Wars Legends now universe, as it's been rebranded. I'm probably going to still keep calling it the Expanded Universe, just so you know. And we're up to the third book, which is Revan, part of the Old Republic series, authored by Drew Karpyshyn. This is the first book in the Old Republic. There's four, I believe. It's going to be this book and then the Darth Bane trilogy. And I think there's actually the one about the zombies, Red something. We'll figure it out later. But let me give you a little background on Drew Karpyshyn. I like to just, who is writing this, because we're going to get to know our Star Wars authors as we continue through the EU. And Drew Karpyshyn is a novelist. He is probably most well known for his video game storylines that he's helped work through. Some of the ones that you would know would be Baldur's Gate 2, Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect. He worked for BioWare. And so he's done several of those video game novelizations as well, Revan being one of them. This is a character that he created in the Knights of the Old Republic, and he wanted to bring this story to completion and actually show how it fits in. So that's a pretty cool tie-in. Some other things that he's written would be the Chaos Born trilogy, and he's most recently produced a book that it's a sci-fi book that takes place in Las Vegas. So it's one that he wanted to do in homage. He loved Vegas when he was there, living there. So he wanted to do a sci-fi governmental spy thriller in Las Vegas. You can check that out on Drew Karpyshyn's website. But what is the background to this book? Well, as I mentioned, he's written Revan as a novelization and conclusion to the storyline that he began in Knights of the Old Republic and the Old Republic. And he admitted up front on his website, it's interesting, you can read through a little bit, he knew that he was going to catch some heat for it because these were beloved characters. And he, number one, did not have enough space to include all of these characters. And secondly, how this book is going to conclude, he knew would rub some fans the wrong way. As he described it, not everything is all balloons and rainbows. And it's true, this book is a tragedy. In certain senses, not an utter tragedy, but there are tragic elements to it. So this character Revan, he's first mentioned in our timeline. As I'm reading through these things in the timeline, he's mentioned in the previous book, The Lost Tribe of the Sith. In one of the short stories, a Jedi who's hiding out on Kesh receives an unexpected radio wave communication that somehow got through the protective barrier on Kesh, and it was about a civil war that had been launched by a fallen Jedi in the Republic that caused that Jedi to sort of grow disenfranchised with the whole thing. But that is what our story is sort of going to entail. And so when I heard that for the first time, I thought, okay, this is going to be essentially an Anakin Skywalker story. We're going to have a Jedi who's lured away by the dark side and turns. That is not what we got. And I was very surprised with the story that was put in front of us as I started to read through Revan. Again, I'm aware of a number of these stories and characters. Revan was one that I've definitely heard of, wasn't familiar with the story. So I was excited to finally read through it. But what is the plot? Well, Revan is a very complex character. He is introduced into this story as someone who has had a past, a really, really dark past, where he's been turned to the dark side. He's led an attack against the Republic. However, the Revan that we meet has had his memory wiped by the Jedi Council. So he failed in his attempt to overthrow the Republic, and they wiped his memory. He was brought back to the light. He doesn't really remember any of that either, but he finds himself back in the light, back as the old Jedi Master that he was, Master Revan. And his life is really one of trying to find out about his past. He knows that he's done terrible things. And to many in the Republic, they think that he should have been executed for his crimes. Others, if not executed, certainly exiled. Why is he allowed to be on Coruscant visiting the Jedi Temple? Why is he still, just because his memories were erased, everything that he's done. However, no one is saying anything. And so he's trying to discover for himself, going through the Jedi archives, wherever he's allowed, to try to piece things together. He's married. Bastila, I don't know how you pronounce it exactly. Bastila, I think is how I said it in my head. Also was turned to the dark side, as was Revan's apprentice partner, certainly in crime here, Malak. And Malak is dead, and Bastila has also been turned back to the light. They're married, and they're going to have a child. And she only wants Revan to be able to essentially drift off into the darkness, live a life of peace. He's been used by the Jedi now to essentially be their militaristic arm. He's a great fighter. He's a great warrior. And she really would like him to be able to step away. Well, there are certain threats that become known to Revan, and he feels it is his obligation. Specifically, he was the warrior, the hero for the Republic in their war against the Mandalorians. And he was the one who himself killed and vanquished the Mandalorian king. Mandalore the Great, I think is what they do. Each of the new Mandalorian rulers chooses a different sort of after tag after Mandalore. And so, but what he did is he took Mandalore's mask, which is passed ceremoniously to the next Mandalorian chieftain. And that's also been wiped. So there's some things that come up on Mandalore that he feels obligation to go back and try to help with. He understands that he, of all Jedi, would be the least popular because he is the one who essentially overthrew the Mandalorians. But that crisis on Mandalore leads him to uncover another threat. And that's the main plot of the story. He is trying to track down, and it all centers around the long defeated, supposedly the vanquished Sith enemy from the Great Hyperspace Wars. And could they be back? There are rumors and there are things that he needs to track down. And so the story will lead him to, yes, come to the realization that the Sith have not been eradicated. And what is Revan's place in this? He's unique in the sense that he is, I think, what you would call a gray Jedi. He's someone who has experienced the dark side. He is mastered the light, and he sees value in leaning into both sides, not completely, but realizing that the Force is seeking a balance, and that balance should be shown and felt within him, just like it's trying to do in the entire galaxy. So will he be able to vanquish some of these threats? Will he be able to uncover some of these mysteries and actually get the life of peace for him and his wife and his child? Well, you're going to have to read to find out. But there are some things that I really liked about this book. I liked how Revan, Bastila, and Mitra, Revan's apprentice now, even with her own part in what caused Revan to fall from grace, that you will find out as the story unfolds, they are all redeemed. And they paid dearly for their crimes. Some think they weren't charged enough for their crimes, but they were given a chance to atone for their actions by doing good. Where they were from to where they now were at, they were able to, through their actions, see how they had made mistakes. Other than Revan, whose memory has been erased, the others are able to try to atone and to do the next right thing. You see here, even early on in the Old Republic, you do see some of the flaws of the Jedi's thinking that Revan has become aware of, is that all emotions are not bad. And that actually some emotions should motivate you to do even greater good. And you can actually embrace some of those emotions, which we know that the Jedi Code does not call for. There is no emotion. There's only peace, right? Something that I liked, again, is seeing Revan, who is someone who is uniquely capable of showing the value of a balanced force. And as he's going through the story, his subdued memories are trying to claw their way back out into the open. He begins having horrible dreams, he can't sleep, he's having visions, and he begins to piece together that as he goes further on into his past, the more things are triggered and the more memories he gets back. I really enjoyed that process of him rediscovering his past and it not throwing him. That's what I was concerned about. The more he finds out, I was hoping this wasn't going to send him spiraling back. But you see how he's grown. He's in a place where he can receive the tragedy of his past and it doesn't completely corrupt him now. It just actually makes him even more complex and even more deep because he can now have a broader vision of what reality is. I really enjoyed that process. I liked how powerful Revan was. I mean, that's something that's probably subtle, but he has a reputation that he knows is there. He can't remember it. And seeing him come into his own and be able to back it up. There's one fight scene here. I'll mention it later, but you just see how incredibly powerful a warrior he is. And that was super cool to see. There were some things that didn't work for me in this book. Darth Scourge, he is the up-and-coming Dark Lord who is motivated by pride and arrogance and power and accolades. His arc was a slow build the entire book. And part of their interactions is that when Revan is captured, and I won't share a lot about that, but when he's captured for a long time, Scourge and Revan are able to interact one-on-one. And Revan, being the master, even though he is hindered in some ways, he is able to really begin planting seeds of doubt in Darth Scourge's mind about the dark side, about the Sith. And really, you see Scourge begin to wrestle with some of these serious questions about living for others, about sacrificing for a greater good, not just motivated by what benefits you, but truly what is best. And why I say these things didn't work for me is that I didn't think the payoff was there at all. I was expecting there to be maybe a full circle moment where he finally stepped into the light. And what actually happened, I thought, was a reversal. It was unexpected, but I didn't think it was explained well. There was so much time put into the possibility of him developing and the possibility of him really wrestling and struggling with these deep thoughts and questions, only at the end to have a decision made that was final, that I just thought was really unexpected, but not in a good way. So that didn't work for me, Darth Scourge's arc. Another thing that didn't work for me was another one of the Sith, Darth Nyrus, who is one of the Emperor's Dark Council members. She's very, very, very influential. Her arc ended so abruptly that I actually had to go back and read it twice because I thought that I had missed something. It was literally, it was 2 sentences. Her arc ended. And Revan has a lot to do with it, but it was like this character's been built up this entire story as like not the main enemy, but like she is super influential and important, and how quick her story ended, I just thought didn't work for me. I would have liked a little bit more payoff. And then finally, as Revan is going through tracking down rumors, tracking down the reality of the Sith, as he becomes even like confirmed in what he's doing and where he's going, it seems to be a theme here. Like, the Jedi do not communicate well. And like, if he was going to go put himself in harm's way, you would think you would like send out a message to the Jedi Council, like, hey, just a heads up. I'm going to this really creepy looking planet, not sure what's going to happen. Just checking in. If you don't hear from me in, months, maybe this is the last place I was. Isolated Jedi activity with no checking in, with no support from Coruscant. I understand it's a mystery, it's a personal adventure story, but at the same time, like, these Jedi do not play well together. And I just feel like there's so much connection that could be done if you leaned into these wise masters to get some advice. So that was just one other thing that it seems to be a pattern so far. These isolated adventures that sure makes sense, and everything that happened, yeah, makes sense, but like, why wouldn't you just like beforehand get some suggestions? Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. But maybe that's me just being critical. I did enjoy it. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I'm interested to see how the Old Republic series continues. And again, Drew Karpyshyn, he knew that the end of this story was probably not going to be what his fans wanted for Revan. But I do appreciate an author who's willing to make a decision that's best for the character, not just fan service. Some people disagree with me on that, but like when a character dies, if it made sense, I'm all for it, even if I hate it. And I think he did a good job of, for this character, the decisions he made were consistent, they were right, and I think it served to make a very strong story. So I enjoyed it. I hope if you read it, you maybe feel similar or even differently from me. But check it out yourself, Star Wars Revan, Book 3 in our EU, and excited to see where this journey continues. But thanks so much for watching. If you're interested, you can like and subscribe, and let's continue to walk through the expanded universe together. So thank you so much, and we'll get back together in the next video.